Hi everyone. Research indicates that survivors of abuse in faith communities tend to stay longer in their relationships. One of the reasons for that is that abusers manipulate them into believing that if they leave, they would be violating God's will. And unfortunately, church leaders can often become complicit in pressurizing them to either stay with or return to their abusers. C.S. Lewis said, "Of all bad men, religious bad men are the worst. Not only do they perpetrate evil, but they do it in the name of God. And there are few things that offend him more than the deliberate misrepresentation of his name, the taking on of his name, but in vain, the maligning of his character." That's what the third commandment is really all about. The Apostle Paul in 2 Timothy 3 gives an accurate description of intimate terrorists when he warns that in the last days men shall be lovers of themselves, unloving, unholy, unforgiving, slanderers, despisers of that which is good, without self-control, brutal, headstrong, having a form of godliness but denying its power. In other words, they may look good, they may be pillars in their community, they may do many great things in church, but then go home and beat their spouse. In the words of John Bunyan, saint abroad, devil at home. Now Jesus said, the evil man brings forth evil out of the evil stored up in his heart. And that's a kind of disturbing picture, that somebody has a stockpile of evil from which they draw. John says, he that does not love does not know God, for God is love. And again, Paul says, the carnal mind, the mind that is bent on self-gratification, is enmity, in opposition to God, because it is not subject to the law of God, neither indeed can be. The upshot of all this is that intimate terrorists are not Christians, not by any biblical definition, and it's important for us to acknowledge that, because I've said before that prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. We need to understand what we're dealing with, and there are a few things we need to appreciate about domestic abuse. One is that domestic abuse, intimate partner violence, coercive control, whatever you want to call it, is a crime. If an abuser was to abuse a stranger in the street in the way they abuse their spouse, they would be arrested, prosecuted, and imprisoned. The marriage license, contrary to the opinion of some, is not a license to abuse. So we need to hold abusers accountable for their crimes, and we should not be shy about making recourse to the legal authorities. That's their remit. But there is an area of responsibility and accountability that rests purely in the lap of the church, because the fundamental problem with domestic abuse is the unconverted heart of the abuser. They are not Christians. They are Christians in name only. They are wolves in sheep's clothing. And if there's anything that is clear from the teachings of Jesus, it is that the responsibility of the church, especially of the leaders, is to protect the sheep from the wolves. They are our number one responsibility. But we also have a responsibility to the perpetrator to hold them accountable. And we have various mechanisms and values in the church that we can bring into play to do that. For example, Matthew 18. And it's important to appreciate that Matthew 18 is a process of redemption. The purpose of Matthew 18 is not to kick out. The purpose is to retain, is to win over. But it requires the cooperation of the offender, that they admit they're wrong, that they're willing to cooperate with any processes that we put in place, that they get the professional intervention that they need in order to change and in order to heal. If they're willing, great. We can walk alongside them, give them the spiritual help they need, the practical help that they need. But if they are not willing, if they dig their heels in, if they refuse to change, then we take Matthew 18 and we carry it to its nth degree. We remove from them the privilege of fellowship. And that's not an arbitrary act on the part of the church. That's simply a recognition of a choice which they have made to distance themselves from the values that we hold. And we need to do that for the sake of the abused. They need to know that God is the God of the oppressed, that God is on their side, and that we are too. And we do that by operating a zero tolerance of abuse in all its forms. We follow the counsel of the psalmist who says, do justice for the afflicted, deliver the poor and needy, and free them from the hand of the wicked. Let's work together to accomplish that goal.